Union Market, and Wharf locations. I'd like to welcome you to PMP Live. Thank you for joining us in this virtual format. It is because of these extraordinary times that we strive to continue to bring you the authors you love and their new books to our politics and prose community in a new way. At any point during this event, you may click on the link in the chat to purchase Let Love Rule and any other book you fancy on the Politics and Prose website. Additionally, you may ask Lenny Kravitz a question by clicking on Q&A, which can be found near the bottom of your screen. And while we'll try to get to everyone's questions, we apologize in advance if we don't have time to address yours. Today's author event is brought to you in partnership with the 930 Club in Washington, D.C. And at last, thank you for being here with us today. We're grateful to our family of loyal customers, keeping our business and our spirits afloat. It is now my immense pleasure to introduce two Grammy Award-winning musicians, Lenny Kravitz, author of Let Love Rule, in conversation with Natalie Maines of The Chicks. In Let Love Rule, Lenny Kravitz looks back on his life with candor, self-scrutiny, and humor. My life is all about opposites, he writes. Black and white, Jewish and Christian, the Jackson 5 and Led Zeppelin. I accept my Gemini soul. I own it. I adore it. The cast of characters surrounding Lenny is extraordinary. His father, Cy, a high-powered news executive, his mother, Roxie Roker, a television star, and Lisa Bonet, a young actress who becomes his muse. The central character, of course, is Lenny, who, despite his great aspirational energy, turns down record deal after record deal until he finds his true voice. The creation of that voice, the same voice that's able to declare Let Love Rule to an international audience, is at the very heart of this story. Natalie Maines is the lead vocalist for the Grammy Award-winning country band The Chicks, along with multi-instrumentalist bandmates Marty Irwin McGuire and Emily Strayer. They've just released their 8th studio album, Gaslighter, and if you haven't heard it by now, I would give it a listen or 10. Just put it on repeat, it's amazing. On behalf of Politics and Prose Bookstore, please welcome Lenny Kravitz and Natalie Maines to PMP Live.
Hi, Lenny.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm so happy to be here with you. This is beautiful.
It is beautiful. I'm just going to start off by completely embarrassing myself and being very humble and show you. So I don't know if you know this, but you were my soulmate in high school and part of college. I was absolutely obsessed with you since Let Love Rule came out. And I went digging through my garage, my high school archives today to see if I could find some of my Lenny stuff that I created when I was a teenager.
Wow.
So I just want everyone watching to understand the level of fan that I have always.
I did not know this.
Yes. So here's just one collage of you. And then I found, this other book. Now I'm dropping everything. But what's important is, my friend Laura painted this for me and her.
Wow. That was from the back cover of Let Love Rule, yeah.
Yep. She gave that to me. And then I have my concert ticket from a Dallas concert. Let's see the date. Saturday, October 16th. Oh my God, it's almost our anniversary.
Oh, wow.
1993, Dallas, Texas.
I Gotta Go My Way tour, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was the first time I ever got to fly by myself from Lubbock, Texas to Dallas, Texas. And it was an amazing time. And then I used to just write out your lyrics in my book.
Wow. I have to say, I'm really honored by this.
So I read in the book that you saw Lisa Bonet on television and said, I'm going to marry her. And I used to tell everybody I was going to marry you.
Wow.
So now only one of us was right about that. I didn't marry you, but you married Lisa. But so I'm asking you today, will you marry me? No, I'm kidding.
Hey, one never knows.
No, but I do love you. I am such a huge fan.
No, I appreciate that so much because I love what you do, your artistry and everything you've done. This is kind of blowing my mind here.
Well, yeah, I've talked about it on a lot of interviews, so I just want to be very out front and honest about the level of fan I am. And so we're going to talk about your book, but I'm also going to just ask you questions as a diehard.
Of course. Of course.
All right. So you are with us from the Bahamas?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in the Bahamas. This is where my mother's side of the family is from. My grandfather was from an island called Inagua. And I've been coming here since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And this is where I really feel at home. I'm sure because it's, you know, my roots are here, and also because I spent a lot of time here. My mom used to send me here in the summers, in the winters. I'd come with her, or I'd be sent here to come stay with my cousins and my aunts and uncles and folks. And, you know, it was such a beautiful escape from New York City, you know?
Yeah.
And so I've been here for 7 months. I was in Paris in my other home, and I was headed to New Zealand and Australia to start the next leg of the world tour. And as you know, as I was here for those days, the whole world changed, and I'm still here.
Yeah. So you were mid-tour.
Yeah, I'd done almost 2 years. I'd been on the road,
wow.
and I was going to keep going. And yeah, so
That's
been a very interesting time. Where have you been the whole time?
In LA. I live here in LA, and we had a tour that was supposed to start June 6th. But yeah, been in quarantine since March 12th.
Right.
Yeah.
Had you already started rehearsing?
We were just about to start production rehearsals. Our album was about to come out. We postponed that by a couple of months. The tour was like 2 days away from being announced and going up on sale. So we didn't have to, you know, do the whole ticket refund and all of that, but it was a huge disappointment. We haven't had a new record in 14 years. So now I'll just wait even longer to play it.
Well, everyone will be waiting when this is over.
Yeah, well, is this going to be over?
That's another question.
Exactly.
That's another question.
All right. Well, I guess I know a lot of people start with chronological, so we can do that. But, you can
go wherever you want, however you want.
Thank you. Yeah. So your parents, it's a very interesting dynamic. The two of them, and then also you with them. And I just have some questions about that. I guess, so you talk in the book about, your relationship a lot with your dad and your mom, but, your dad's was tough. Yeah. And I was wondering was it always tough, or did it get tough when you became a teenager, or was your dad ever fun?
He was fun, but he was fun with his friends.
Right.
He was very charming, very charismatic. With me, I mean, he was my father. He loved me, but I think the way he knew how to show that kind of love was through a lot of heavy discipline as well. And because my father was a military person, he went at a very young age. He sort of raised me like I was a private and he was a sergeant. So everything was like that. And, I think maybe he also didn't know how to be warm in a hands-on kind of way. I mean, he was my father. He provided, he was wonderful. He, worked every day of his life. But I didn't have that cozy time with him, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted. You know, he was tough. And so it always felt a little off to me, you know,
Right.
even as a kid. But I loved him, and I wanted, you know, that attention uh, from him.
Yeah, we all
But
want.
yeah,
Do you remember, like, was there a feeling of when he would leave? Like, did you feel freer when your dad was gone and you just
I
had your
did. He went to Vietnam for about a year to cover the war,
mom?
and I mean, I was small, but I
Mm-hmm.
remember the house, the apartment, feeling free and airy and
Yeah.
just different. My mother was, you know, I was a mama's boy, you know, straight out. I was a mama's boy, and you know, she just treated me so amazingly, and you know, we'd listen to music together and dance and sing, and you know, she was very warm
Yeah.
and affectionate.
Yeah.
Um, so it always felt I had a little more room when he wasn't there to be a bit freer, I suppose. Yeah,
I would think so. Yeah. Your mom
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
lovely.
yeah. Thank you.
um, let's see, where do I want to go next? Well, I found it really interesting in the book. I did not know that you had moved out when you were 16. Was it 16?
15 or 16, yeah, somewhere in there.
So
Um,
I know, like, that does seem very 70s, 80s kind of a thing to do. Don't you think? Like, we were freer
I
back
mean,
in the
when I
80s.
think about it, like when I looked at my daughter when she was
Yeah,
15,
exactly.
and I would think, what if she told me, you know, I'm leaving? I
Bye.
mean, she was a child, and of
Totally.
course, so was I. But when you know, we I thought I was grown, you know, I thought I was grown when I was 15, and I hit the street, and it was, I mean, I put myself in situations, uh, you know, I was out there, I was hanging around all kinds of people, but I had really wonderful guardian angels and people that, you know, people that were sent to look after me, and I'd end up living with people that, you know, were really cool and looked out and protected me.
Did
But
you have
that
any nights
pardon?
once you left your house? Did you have, it seemed like in the book you always had like a couch to sleep on or the next
Well,
place. Did you
I had no idea where I was gonna go that night. Like I just
Yeah.
left, packed this bag, and you know, I was all tough. I was the hero for like, you know, an hour or two, and then I was like, uh-oh, where am I going? You know, but I always had a place to sleep. I never had to sleep in the street.
You didn't.
Uh, no, not the worst it got was that I lived in a car for some months. But I always had a couch, a floor. Um, I used to sleep at A&M Records in their lounge at night. There was like this little area with these little couches where people would hang out when they were having breaks from their recording sessions, and I used to sleep there. And then I'd get up in the morning before the you know person that was cleaning up, taking care of the studio would come in. But no, I never had to sleep in the street, so I was fine. And
That's
you know, I always had a meal. I mean, maybe I missed some, but I mean, there was always a place where I could get food. And you know, I actually worked at a restaurant at one point as a dishwasher, because I remember my grandmother always taught me, work at a restaurant so you can eat, you know.
ah.
And so I was a dishwasher. Then you know, I worked at a fish market at one point. That was fun. I stank for about a year. Couldn't get that smell off of me for about a year. But it was wonderful. I'm so glad that I did it, because that was the beginning of my journey, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You, well, I'm wondering, did you ever, I mean, you were so young, I would think you probably didn't think to ask your mom this, but did you ever have a conversation with your mom back at that point? Like, why are you, I don't know. It must have been hard to feel like, yes, she's married to this man, but this man isn't that nice to you. And you found out later, about a lot more affairs than the one
Mm,
that you found out about.
mm, mm.
Um, I'm sure when you were older, you had this conversation with your mom, but when you were younger at all, did you have any sort of conversation with your mom just saying,
No, I
why are
mean, it
you
was,
staying with this dude? And I would be home if he wasn't.
yeah. I mean, she loved him, and you know, they had a thing, uh, and she was committed. My
Hmm.
mother came from, you know, a West Indian family, old school values. You know, her parents were married for 60 some odd years before my grandmother died, you know. That's what she knew and understood. And so when he would do things that, you know, she didn't like, um, you know, she was committed to stay because that's who she was. And she always wanted to give him love and always communicated with him to try to make him be a better communicator, you know. Um, but he was who he was, and you know, uh, I believe that, you know, we're all given what we need to become who and what we need to become, and that is the father that I needed,
Mm.
because it made me do certain things for myself, and you know, I also had my grandfather, my mother's father,
Hmm.
who really stood in the gap there, and he was my father figure. You know, my father was my father. I loved him. I respected him. But my grandfather
Mm.
really gave me that father figure, um, uh, vibe, and the time and the talks and the, you know, it was beautiful. We were very, very, very close. And
Did your mom
my
ever?
father was close with my grandfather too. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody was cool, you know.
Oh, is that right? That, wow, your
It
father
took
was
it took,
close to your
oh
grandfather.
yeah, my father, you know, I love his parents. I had a grandpa Joe and my grandma Jean. My grandpa Joe died when I was about 9 or 10.
Mm.
But my grandma Jean and I were very close. But I think that my father somehow communicated better and felt closer to my mother's parents,
Mm-hmm.
uh, by virtue of just the kind of people that they were, perhaps. Um,
Yeah,
but
I have to think.
yeah,
But his,
but I'm sorry, getting back. Yeah, my grandfather and my father were really cool. You know, they had a good relationship.
well, I would imagine your grandfather was the kind father you craved, and probably the kind father your father craved. So that
Yes,
kind of makes
yes,
sense.
yes, yes. Because
That makes sense.
my dad had issues with his dad and thing, you know, baggage he was carrying
Yeah.
from that time, you know, from growing up. Um,
Did your mom
I
find love after your father?
no,
No.
she I have to say she was very private about it. You
Hmm.
know, the women of that era, can't speak for everybody, but that kind of woman,
Hmm.
uh, and especially that kind of black woman at that time, you know, um, she was very private about the family stuff,
Hmm.
you know, the family business, the family uh, information. And she continued to wear her wedding ring.
Really?
She, yes, I believe that she continued to wish that somehow things would work out.
Wow.
I think she was waiting for him to figure out how he would make that happen, but he never did. And I have to say, I was an asshole too, because I remember a guy coming to take my mom on a date.
Yeah.
He was actually a guy here from the Bahamas who uh, owned a restaurant and owned some businesses, a well-to-do guy, a very nice guy. He flew to LA, and I remember the doorbell rang. Um, I wasn't living at home at that time, but I was somehow visiting, and he was in a tuxedo.
Wow.
I mean, beautiful. The guy was beautiful. dressed gentleman.
Yeah.
And I treated this guy so badly
What'd
that I just treated him badly. I basically, the vibe I gave him was, this ain't gonna happen.
you...
Tuxedo, flowers, all, dinner, the whole,
How old are you?
I was probably, I don't know, like 21 or something. No, maybe 22.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't living at home, but I treated him bad. I treated him so badly to the point where several years ago, I saw this guy.
You did.
And I said, "You remember me?" "Of course, yes." Da, 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 da. I said, I have to apologize to you, man. I was young. I was protecting my mother, and and we had a laugh about it, But no, she did not ever have a boyfriend after that, and that was that,
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe she wore her wedding ring. That's
Yeah.
wow. So I don't know, I'm assuming people who are watching this have read the book because they're big enough fans to be here. So I'm sorry if I am sort of skipping parts of the book to people who might not have read it, but just jumping ahead to that, with your dad, did you talk in the book a bit, but I've seen interviews of you saying that you learn to re-love or reappreciate your dad and
Oh,
things.
yeah.
I'm wondering, but what I'm wondering is, did your dad ever come to terms or acceptance of what he had done, and did he ever apologize for what he and just so if anybody hasn't read, I think one of the horrible things that your dad said to you, and I'm not trying to just harp on your dad and make him a bad guy, but it was so painful to hear that he told you when you found out that your dad was having an affair and you told your mom, I just wonder if he so you told him you knew or whatever, and he told you as on his way out the door, "Oh, you're going to do this too." That is one of the shittiest things I have ever heard.
That was heavy. I didn't realize how deeply that had penetrated my soul.
It's horrible.
Until I became older, But
did you ever have a conversation with him about that moment, or did he?
Well, later, my father wasn't the kind of guy to be explaining himself. I remember when I was living in Miami, this is around the time this is after the 5 album, about the time I was doing the greatest hits, when I recorded again for the greatest hits, and he was visiting me, and it wasn't easy for me to speak to him about things because I knew he wasn't comfortable with it, so it makes you uncomfortable. And I said to him, what was that you did to Mom? Like, let's talk about it. Like, and he just looked at me and he said, things happen. And that was it. So he wasn't comfortable talking to me like that. But skipping ahead, years ahead, in the last months of his life, we made peace because he had a conversation with me and my sisters, my 2 half sisters, where he did apologize and told us how much he loved us and that he wanted to be better. And then also explained to me, I don't know if my sisters were standing there at that point, but how going to the military at a young age affected him deeply. Because I think my father really was this artistic, sensitive person. And he said that they turned him into, the situation turned him into somebody else. I mean, my father, my dad ended up being a Green Beret. I mean, he was the toughest of the tough,
Yeah.
And he said, I felt like after that experience in my life, that I had this monkey on my back that I could never get off, and I wanted it off my entire life. And when he said that to me, it really, because you know, I'd never gotten explanations. Like I said, it was always 2 or 3 words, you know, and that's it. You know, he didn't want to talk, but he took the time to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a spiritual awakening. I mean, the whole thing was just so not my dad. It was so beautiful. And the last few months we had were great, and all was forgiven. But you still hold on to certain things, or you still have certain questions, or you're still hurt about whatever. And in writing the book, as you'd mentioned earlier, I found great healing in looking into my father's character, accepting it with love, seeing him as a character, being able to step back. And I understood that he was a person trying to make his way through this life experience, which ain't easy, with what he had, you know, because his father had done similar things. And so in looking at him that way and writing about it and understanding him as a man and not just looking at him as my father, because no matter how old you are, you know, we think our parents are these people, or at least, you know, I held on to that thing, you know, your parents are perfect, they're adults, they know everything. And when I accepted him in that way as just a person, and I got better understanding of his dilemma, whatever remaining feeling or judgment was gone. It just dissolved. It dissolved, and it was, and I felt this love for him.
How old was Zoe when he passed?
Oh God, he's been gone now about 15 years or so. So she's 30. So, you know, yeah.
So so did you, I'm wondering too, like, I mean, I had great parents, but.
Because she was, actually, we were all living together when he passed, when he was ill. We were living in New York at that time.
Was he a different grandfather than father?
Oh, okay, yes. This is beyond the book now, right? But it's no, but this, yes. And I got so much joy out of seeing that.
Yeah.
You know, some people I've seen people that had a problem with a parent and they project that onto their kids, you know, which is not healthy. It's not smart. It only messes up the kid, you know, talking shit about that person to your kid. I stood back and I watched their relationship, and he was a beautiful grandfather. You know, he had learned things by then. And, you know, they used to put on shows in his apartment.
That's good.
And you know, plays and shows and had fun.
And has nice memories of him.
They'd go, you know, to restaurants and have, you know, this pancake house they'd go to on the weekends where they made these giant pancakes. You know, they were always having fun, and I was so happy to see that.
That's good. That's good. Another thing, so in the book, and going back to earlier, you know, and they talked about it in the intro, but I was laughing and proud of you, but just I couldn't believe how many deals you turned down at such a young age. And it just made me think, like, you didn't get that confidence from your dad. There's something I just feel like a lot of who you are was born into you. Obviously, your mom was amazing, and your grandfather sounds like he had a real impact. But where at that young age did you get that you had a real sense of self? Like, you know, I have 2 sons. My oldest is 19, and I just kept thinking about him when I was I listened to the album because you read it and I wanted to hear you read it. But when I was listening, I just saw so many similarities because Slade, my oldest,
Mm.
is a musician.
Slade?
Slade, yeah.
Oh, that's a great name.
Thanks. Yeah, he's a cool kid. And he's a great musician, songwriter. He's learning to engineer and produce during quarantine.
Mm.
But I feel like, I mean, you were definitely trying to find yourself as your sound and your music, who you wanted to be as a musician.
Mm.
But you had some pretty awesome opportunities come your way. And I can't see my son like saying, I'm gonna hold off. I think he'd be like, where's the pen? Where's the
It's very
line?
interesting because I don't know where I got that from.
Yeah.
That was something that was deep within me that I cannot explain, because at that point I hadn't yet even found my sound, right?
Yeah.
To say this is what it is. But I knew that what they wanted me to do was not my sound. I knew that.
But you're
So
so young, standing up to these.
I know, and I'm living in a Ford Pinto. You know, I'm living in a Pinto, a rented Ford Pinto, piece of crap, and I'm walking off the lot of the record label, you know, without the deal. And so many of my friends, you know, told me I was crazy. People didn't understand what's wrong with you. You know, you could take the deal, you could do what they want you to do, and you could, you know, hopefully you get a hit, and then you can develop and you can become. But that wasn't working for me somehow. It just didn't speak to me.
Well,
And
it does seem so right because, you know,
but I'd love to have an answer. I'd love to say, this is why, you know, this is why
yeah.
I was able to do. I have no idea, other than when it came time to sign the deal with the pen, I felt physically ill. This was beyond my comprehension.
Mm-hmm. I think you
Yeah.
are in tune to, you know, the environment and nature and just the universe
Mm.
because, and why I believe that is because when you did sign and make this record, that
Mhm.
really was, I mean, to me, I didn't know you before that, but
Right.
that felt so right. I mean, Let Love Rule is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Thank you.
And it's and I didn't realize either, I'd never thought about how you were making an album that was very different from what was on the radio and what was on
Hmm.
and was part of the times. And you had this inner knowledge or just whatever
Mm.
to do that and follow that through, and then you made what I think is an amazing, beautiful album. And I do you think that it seems like, you know, meeting Lisa Bonet was sort of like the thing that sort of put all the pieces together. I mean, you wrote
Yes.
songs,
Yes.
better songs than you had ever written, and they were so from the heart. And I
Hmm.
felt like she was your muse, and she inspired this
Absolutely.
realness.
Absolutely. You know, uh, through this life, I've had the most amazing women, uh, and especially Black women in my life, uh, that gave me so much. And you know, I'd lived my life up to that point. You know, all the people that I met, all the experiences that I had were notes that were being put into this, you know, bucket. And when when I met Lisa with this bucket of notes and experiences, um, through, through our reality and everything that we were doing at that time, it just put it all together, and that portal opened, and I no longer had to search for this sound that I was looking for. It just showed up, and I listened, and it wasn't necessarily exactly what I thought it was going to be. You
Yeah.
know, we all have ideas with our minds and our ego and whatever. This is what I want to do, and this is how it's going to be. And it came, and it was something else, but it was mine, and it was beautiful, and I accepted it. And
Did
that
you
situation
write a lot
definitely
of
brought
this?
it.
Did you write a lot of the songs for Let Love Rule in the Bahamas?
No, actually, that
Mm.
was before I was I was hanging out here where I am now, but I wasn't living here yet. Most of those songs were written in New York and LA. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because in the book you talk about you take Lisa to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys kind of go to a different island or area than you had ever been to before. I had this dream that you guys were just naked on the beach and you're writing all these amazing songs.
Well, that was happening.
But it was different songs.
But wasn't those songs yet. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you talked about I've heard a lot of people, of mixed race saying that they didn't quite know where they fit in. If, one parent was Black, one parent was white. I didn't feel like, and it could be wrong, but in the book, I didn't feel like you had such an issue with knowing where you fit in. Is that true? Did you?
I did not have an issue. Okay. And I'd been around other biracial kids who did have a problem with it. I saw that. And it made me sad because a lot of them didn't know where they fit. I was comfortable with both sides. I was always the kid who was hanging out with every group. There's always these cliques in school, right? Different races, different this, different interests, whatever it may be. And I was always going around the cafeteria, hanging out with every group because I love people and I didn't care about the differences. But I'm glad that I was comfortable with myself. I'm so blessed that I was, and my mother was a big, part of that in encouraging me to celebrate myself, both sides, all of it,
Yeah. Yeah. And looking at the photos in the book, here, I'll hold up the book so everyone can see. But I was perusing the photos and I did have a fan question, just wondering what's more embarrassing, your Romeo Blue photos or your first headshot?
You know what? I've learned to accept all that. All that's part of the journey. I look at it myself and I laugh. I'm like, man, I was going for.
Doesn't look back at pictures of their past and laugh.
I was going for it. I was committed.
Listen, Lenny, you had a very short, awkward stage. The rest of us had way longer, awkward stages. So you have nothing really to be embarrassed about. I just thought I had never.
But it was fun. I mean, no one's seen those photos till now, so it's funny to see the reactions.
They're great. I love that. So I always looked at Let Love Rule as like this love letter to Lisa and your lives, and then Mama Said as kind of an apology letter. And a begging back. Am I right in that?
It was all of that. It was, it was our lives. And, those are two very important records to me. And, she, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had all those experiences, or I would have been here obviously in a different way, Right. But yeah.
Have you ever been in therapy? Did you ever have therapy?
The best therapy I just got was writing this book, which I didn't expect or even think about. But yeah, I've done it a few times in my life, trying to work some things out, and it was interesting. And I got some insight, but never as much as this experience, which is interesting because you're not talking to anyone, you're examining the past, and it did something for me. It worked for me.
Well, it ended way too early for me. I was ready for the book that's like that thick.
Right.
And you say those chapters are coming. But
Mhm.
so did Bob Dylan, and he has yet to release another book. Is there
We'll
really?
see.
Are you
We'll
really
see. I
going?
mean, it's something that I'm thinking about, because now that I've done it once, I see uh, what this has brought me, you
Mhm.
know. So I'm sure in the next book where it gets real interesting uh, and
You're gonna have
messy
to
and
dig deep.
all kinds of things, all kinds of things. But if it does the same thing that this one did for
Yeah.
me, then that also will be healing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, you're an awesome actor as well as musician. I was wondering the other day, like, are you a good drawer and a painter? Like, are you just good at everything art-wise?
No, no. But
Seriously?
actually,
Stop.
I just did my first. Well, I've painted a couple times, but not really. But I did a painting last week, which I'm kind of calling my first painting. And
Yeah?
I've always wanted to paint, and I
Yeah.
always knew that I would. I was just waiting for the right time, and so being here and being, you know, having this time and being on the island and being in this creative mode out here in the middle of nature, it's been very inspiring. So that's
What
all
kind
coming.
of painting? Are you into landscapes, abstract, portraits?
Um,
What's going on?
more abstract impressionist kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm going to explore that. I'm going to explore that, and I take pictures. I love photography. I've had a couple of exhibitions and books, and that's been
Oh, I didn't know.
another wonderful outlet. Yeah,
Do you have pets?
and I do design. I have a
Oh yeah,
design
yeah. Oh,
company.
I actually have some of your CB2 furniture.
Ah, all right.
How about pets? Do you have dogs?
I have two beautiful dogs
Yeah,
here that are from the Bahamas,
yeah.
uh, Leroy and Jojo.
Oh, I had
And
a dog named Leroy growing up.
you do?
I did. I had a Labrador growing up, Leroy. Oh,
Oh
and I
wow.
had a cat I named Zoe. My love for you never ends.
Uh,
Well, that's good. Let's see. What else did I have here? What kind of dad are you? Do you give advice? Do you just try to live by example? Do you just try to listen more than talk? What?
all of that, all of that. Um, Zoe moved in with me when she was 11,
Mm,
and we've always had a wonderful relationship. Um, you have to work at it, of course. Um, but we have such a love for each other, and I've become the father now that I'm always calling her, I'm always FaceTiming her, like like Dad, relax, ease up on the FaceTime. Um, but we're very open with each other. We talk about everything, um, and just as much advice as she might get from me, I get the same from her. She's
and you listen?
she's very evolved
Yeah,
and intuitive, um, and yeah, I get a lot from Zoe.
yeah. Is she engaged or did she get married? I can't remember.
She got married last year. Yeah.
How soon are grandkids in
Oh,
your
I don't know about that. You got to call her up for that.
Are you ready?
I'm ready for whatever life brings.
You are?
I'm ready for whatever life brings.
I can't say I would be ready for that.
How old are your kids?
19 and 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they grew up in LA?
Slade was like the first 6 years in Texas and
Mm-hmm.
then everything else LA, yeah. And on the
Mm-hmm.
road, but yeah, LA kids.
I
Um,
had a friend named Slade when I was a kid.
you did? I've never met another Slade.
That you don't meet them often.
No.
He's the son of Toni Morrison.
Oh yeah.
She had two sons, Dino and Slade, and I used to play with them when I was a kid. So that's the only other Slade I've ever heard about.
That's another question I had. You're in your book, I feel like you're really good at remembering names. I'm
Mm.
horrible at remembering names, and you remember like,
It's funny. I looked at my class photo the other day. Someone had me looking at it in the book, and
yeah,
I could name out of those like 30 whatever kids, I could name probably, you know, 25 of them.
yeah.
These are people I haven't seen since fourth grade, and I even remembered a couple of their phone numbers.
Really?
Really weird. But don't ask me about yesterday or where I put the thing
Right?
an hour ago. Like, don't ask me that.
Well, I appreciated your recall with the name. I didn't know if a researcher had, I would be like,
No,
guy that we met, and somebody else would have to go figure out who that guy was. But you seem to have a very good memory about your past.
hmm
Yeah, you're really connected to it. And going back, flying back and forth, you talk about, it was so cheap to fly back and forth from LA to New York. You did it like you were just taking an
Oh,
Amtrak.
on that airline, yeah. It was People People Express. It was $99 to get from LA to New York. You had
Do
to
you
bring
have
your own.
a home in
You had to
America?
bring your own food though.
You weren't flying first class.
No, and they took the money on the plane. You paid on the
Like a
plane.
train? Oh, really? Like a train?
So I took it one. I got on it once from New York coming back to LA, knowing that I had no money.
Yeah.
And I got on the plane, and when they came around to collect the money, I was like, I don't have any money, and they locked me up when I when I got to LAX, and my mom had to come get me.
They did. Were you ever like nervous when you would do this stuff? Or you're just like, I'll figure it out later?
I
Like,
had to get back for something, and I was like, I'm getting on that plane, and I knew that because you paid on the plane, I could get away with it. But then I didn't realize they were going to lock me up when I got there. So
well, I was such a scaredy cat kid. I would have talked myself out of that a million times before I would have ever. I love that you did that. I wish I'd been more like that. I think that's awesome. Do it now, worry about what might happen later. I don't do that. Another thing just about your music. I mean, I know back in Let Love Rule, Mama said, "Are you going to go my way?" Solos in music were more common, but I feel like you've continued that, and that's one of the things I love about your music, and something I think is missing from music today is just really getting to feel the vibe of a song. Like your solos, whether it's a saxophone or a guitar or an organ,
mm,
it's so it helps get you into the song. It's not
absolutely.
about lyrics. And so how do you, yeah, I mean, obviously you're an instrumentalist, so you wanted to have solos, but have you ever felt pressure to like,
Of course,
once
there'd
you
always be people.
you were rebellious getting into like
Mm,
finding your sound and standing up for yourself, once you'd had success, there's still that constant pressure of people wanting you to stay relevant
of
and
course.
played on the radio. So how have you
Yeah.
dealt with that?
I don't. I never knew what a hit record was. I mean, I knew what I liked. I knew what turned me on.
Yeah.
But, I never went in like to write a hit. Only once. That's not true. Once. When Virgin was putting out the greatest hits package,
Mm-hmm.
they needed one new song, to put on the album. And they told me we need a mid-tempo radio smash, and we need it like in 2 weeks. And I don't work that way. I do not work that way.
Yeah.
Any hit that I've had was a hit because it became a hit. I didn't know it was going to be a hit. And anyway, in that situation, I wrote again. So that's the only time I ever sat down to formulate something. But I love music. I love instruments. I love expression. I grew up around jazz, so solos and all that. I mean, that's that's so much of it. That's so much of it. And yes, radio was changing, and they wanted less music, less music, less music.
Yeah.
To the point where they weren't even playing guitars, you know, no guitars, which is ridiculous. I mean, that, you know, it's ridiculous. But I think that, you know, you see so many young kids playing instruments now and wanting to play, you know, and I mean, I see so many great young people on Instagram that are instrumentalists, and there's so much talent out there, and they're attracted to that kind of expression. So, you know, I think that's all coming back, you know.
Yeah.
Whether radio wants to play it or not, you know, it doesn't even matter now.
Right. Well, and now you're so successful, you can just say like, I don't care. I'm doing what
the way
I
I've
want.
always been.
One more question before I get to the fan questions. Can I?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say you have about 10 minutes, so.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay. Wait, for the whole thing or for my part?
You have about 10
Before
minutes
the
to take audience questions.
Oh,
Before I take them.
No, to take audience.
Oh, damn it. Oh, okay. Let me just real quick.
Ask one more. Go ahead.
I've always, Lenny, I don't feel like you get enough recognition for people always talk about protest songs and how nobody writes protest songs anymore and this and that. I've always felt like you write a ton of protest songs. And all protest songs don't have to be negative or like combative or fighting the power or whatever. I feel like a lot of your protest songs are peace and love. But, and so, you know, I've written down, does anybody out there even care? I was listening to yesterday and I was just like, oh my God, this song could have been written today. It's sad how relevant it still is, honestly.
I
But
wish it wasn't. Yeah.
I know. And you even on Let Love Rule, I mean, you were one of the first people writing about the environment. You saw that coming. You knew that. Well, we've screwed that up as well. Nobody's listening to you. Some of us are. But I don't know how political you are. Like, where does your protesting begin and end? And do you just try to be political through your music, or do you attend some of these Zoom fundraisers and
I'm just saying how I feel. And
do you just say it in song, or do you
I
talk
always
about
have
politics?
both. And it just amazes me. Human beings, it just amazes me. These folks that are running the world, where they're taking it, what they're doing, what's important to them. And it's just it's all destruction. It's all destructive, whether it's our planet or in our environment or us as human beings. And I just don't understand. I was thinking about it today, having an interview earlier. We're talking about these issues, you know, because I was around I was a small child in the late 60s and in the 70s, but I was around my folks and different people who were fighting for this stuff, you know, back to my grandparents, you know. I watched them. I watched what they went through. I watched their sacrifice. I watched their work, their protests, their fighting the system. They're trying to educate people about humanity, that we are all the same. And you would have thought that we were heading in a much better direction. If you would have asked me 31 years ago when Let Love Rule came out, if you would have asked me, Lenny, do you think that the world, you know, will be a better place in 30 years? I would say, oh, absolutely. Look where we've been, look where we were, look where we are, look where we're going. If my grandfather was alive today to see what's going on right now, he wouldn't be able to comprehend how we've gone backwards. You know?
Do you still have a U.S. address to where you can vote by mail?
Yeah. Oh, I'm voting by mail. I don't have I don't live in the U.S. anymore,
You don't have
which just kind of happened, uh, not on purpose, but oh, absolutely, the vote, absolutely.
All right. Well, is there some room on your island if I have to go there November 4th?
Hey, the studio's here. It's just been refurbished. You'll love it.
I'm hoping I get to stay, but just in case, I'm finding out.
You guys should come make some music here one day. You'd love it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You have an open invitation.
Oh, thank you. All right. Listen, I hope all these people who are asking questions forgive me because I am as big or a bigger fan. So I'm sorry I hogged the time, but I will give you some questions now from fans. Cindy Freeman. Since it's John Lennon's 89th birthday, can you comment on any way the Beatles or John influenced you?
They influenced me greatly. I learned so much from the Beatles and later solo John Lennon material. I love John's raw, honest expression. John said it as it was, and it's beautiful how he accepted his new life and was willing to leave the other one where it was to grow. And so his solo material was very big for me. This morning as a tribute to John's birthday, I did a cover of Love, and it's on my Instagram and everywhere now. But I did that this morning, and I wanted to honor him. And I've been very close with Sean for so many years. And Yoko,
I can hear production stuff. I can hear influence definitely from
John's absolutely
solo stuff. My son pointed out that does anybody out there even care? It sounds very much like a John Lennon song in the best ways, just the way you mic things and it's beautiful. Let's see. Okay. Zachary Kittry says, I'm doing a wonderful job. So thank you, Zachary.
You are.
And then it says, Lenny, will you share with us two people who you admire, two male role models and two female role models? That would be really cool.
Two male role models. Well, I'd have to mention my grandfather because he was monumental. Martin Luther King, women, my grandmother, my grandma Bessie, and now today, my godmother, Cicely Tyson, who I just spoke to 2 days ago. She called me to have a talk, and we talk quite often. She's amazing.
That's awesome. I read it or heard you say the other day that you're still so inspired. What? By what?
Life every day. I don't take any of this for granted. I'm so grateful, and there's so much to experience and learn, and that never stops. I watched my grandfather grow into his 90s, and he kept this attitude. He hung out with young people. He hung out with all kinds of people. He was always wanting to learn, as opposed to, some people, they get older and they just think they know how it is, right? He always wanted to learn and experience, and that's been a great example for me. But artistically, I'm hungry all the time.
That's good. Somebody asked about that. Sophie Barrios Clayton is asking if you are working on a new album in the Bahamas during quarantine.
Yes, I just started. I've been writing since I've been here, but my studio was being worked on. And so for the 6 months prior, I had no studio. So it's all been going on in my head, which is great that I wasn't able to do it, you know, for once, you know. It enabled me to concentrate on other things and to really sort of just
do you write in the studio? Like, do you lay things down as they're coming to you, or do you kind of work it out like with your phone?
a lot of times I wake up in the middle of the night. That happens a lot. I'm dreaming and I hear the music and I'll grab a guitar and I'll, you know, play the chords and hum the melody that I'm hearing. And then in the morning, I'll go down to the studio and start working it out. That's usually how it happens. But then there are things that get written in the studio as well, just from playing around, you know. But most of it, I hear it first.
Melody, words, beat, like does something come first?
Usually the melody and the chords, and then I begin to hear the words within that melody, and they lead me to where I'm going.
Yeah. An anonymous attendee has asked if what was the hardest part about writing the book?
Finding my voice.
Yeah.
Getting started, finding my voice. This was not something that I ever thought I would do. I had no interest in writing a book.
Yeah, what made you do it?
I met David Ritz through a mutual friend who I, of course, knew who he was and, you know, had read his books, you know, Divided Soul by Marvin Gaye, you know, the Ray Charles book, Aretha Franklin, so on, so on. He's written hundreds and hundreds of great books. And he said, you should write a book, and I'd like to help you with that. And I said, you know, that's really nice, but no, thank you. And anyway, by the end of the meal, he'd convinced me. And I started it, stopped, started, stopped, you know, didn't do anything for 6 months. And at a certain point, I was ready to just not do it. I was like, I'm not going to do the book. Let's just forget about it. But then one day, the first chapter of the book came to me just like a download. Like I just started writing. And I sent it to David and I said, this is my voice. And this is how the book should start, with this dream that I talk about, this reoccurring dream. And he read it and he said, that's great. I think you found it. Just keep going. And then it was easier, but just finding where to start, because this is not something that, you know, I'd done before.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you found it and we're ready for the second volume. Let's see. Some of these are real shit questions, so I'm not going to ask you. Just kidding. Some of these I feel like everybody knows the answer to. Hold on, I want to find a good one. Well, a lot of people want to know. I feel like I could answer this for you, but a lot of people want to know your musical influences.
So many. I mean, it started with the Jackson 5 and Stevie Wonder, Motown in general, Curtis Mayfield, Al Green, Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Kiss, Bob Marley.
Did you have a guitar teacher?
I had really good ear? Not really. I took some basic guitar classes at the Harlem School of the Arts in New York when I was a kid. Just basic, like how to play your chords, you know. And then at summer camp one year, a guy was teaching me some more chords, but that was really it. I basically learned by listening to records.
So you just have a really good ear, because nowadays we have YouTube and a million ways to learn songs, but you could just hear them and pick them out.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of those videos you watch, and they're saying this is how you play whatever song, and I listen to the record. I'm like, it's not it. But
it's close.
It's close, but that's not it.
Well, I just want to thank you both.
Oh, is that it? All
So
right.
sorry.
It's fine.
I don't, it's honestly like
Lenny, I'll call you later.
We'll continue this later. Yes, we will be in touch. We will be in touch.
This whole conversation has been like two people becoming best friends. So I've loved it so much, and I know your audience has as well. So thank you.
No, it's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate your time and your love and your care.
You're
And
awesome.
I'm gonna have to digest this. I did not know this about you.
Ah, you didn't? Oh, please.
And I've been watching you for years.
And listen, I wasn't even playing like people. I would tell people I'm gonna marry Lenny Kravitz, and they'd go, yeah. He's great. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I'm a fan too. I'd be like, no. You don't understand. I felt it. I was the only girl in Lubbock, Texas.
Wow, Lubbock, Texas. Wow. Well, I look forward to meeting you. I really do.
Well,
and thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lenny Kravitz. And to our audience, your patronage is what enables us to bring you programming like this. And we cannot continue to host these types of events without the book sales to support them. Please support Lenny Kravitz and PMP by using the link in the chat to purchase Let Love Rule and many, many other books. Please check out our website for the most current updated event listings. We have some really great ones coming up, and we do hope to see you all in the very near future. We appreciate you all for joining us. Thank you again, Lenny Kravitz, Natalie Maines.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Club. You guys are amazing. Stay safe, happy reading, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
all right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.